So we are talking about something today that confuses a lot of people in toxic relationships. And if you've ever found yourself saying, I don't even recognize who I became in this relationship. I scream, I snap, I lose control. I react in a way I never thought I would. Then this episode is for you.
Welcome to the Secret Life Podcast. Tell me your secret. I'll tell you mine.
Recovery doesn't end when the chaos stops. That's when the real work begins. After 16 years of recovery, my novels, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict, and my new book, Becoming My Own Effing Soulmate, tell the before and after. The addiction, the healing, and the messy realities of learning how to choose yourself. Both are available now on Amazon. Welcome to Secret Life Podcast. I'm Brianne Davis-Gant. Today I'm pulling back the curtains of all kinds of human secrets. We'll hear about what people are hiding from themselves or others. You know those deep, dark secrets you probably want to take to your grave? Or those lighter, funnier secrets that are just plain embarrassing? Join me each week as we take a deep dive into one subject matter, exploring the how, what, when, where, and why of it all. Get ready for Secret Life, and I'm excited for you to join the ride. Today, we are talking about, dun dun dun, reactive abuse, okay? It's a lot in the news right now with that Secret Lives of Mormon wife, the Taylor girl. I don't remember her last name because I do not watch the show, but her and Dakota, reactive abuse. And the judge just came out recently saying, this is reactive abuse, and you are being calculated, Dakota. So I wanted to do a thing about reactive abuse when survival gets mistaken for a problem. So this is why Secret Life is going to cover this very difficult subject. And I have had a couple of clients that were in reactive abuse because their partners were so manipulative, controlling, calculated, poking the bear, and then watching you have a reaction and then pointing and blaming you or videotaping it. So I have dealt with this firsthand with people in my life and clients that I've helped them through get out of these toxic situations. So we are talking about something today that confuses a lot of people in toxic relationships. And if you've ever found yourself saying, I don't even recognize who I became in this relationship. I scream, I snap, I lose control. I react in a way I never thought I would. Then this episode is for you, because reactive abuse is one of the most psychological damaging dynamics in unhealthy relationships. And one is that most people misunderstand, even yourself if you're going through it. So let's break down what it is, how it happens, what kind of partnership creates it, and most importantly, how do you fucking get out and heal? First, what is reactive abuse? I always love to give definitions. It drives my clients crazy when I'm like, let's look up the definition. Reactive abuse happens when someone is emotionally, mentally, verbally, psychologically, and sometimes physically pushing you to your limit. And then that person finally reacts. They scream. They might throw something. They might rage. They may say cruel things back. Maybe they completely just melt down emotionally. And then suddenly that abusive partner points at that reaction and says, see, you're the abusive one. You're crazy. You're unstable. You need help. The reaction becomes the focus instead of the ongoing mistreatment that it causes it. That's what makes reactive abuse so psychologically confusing, because the person being harmed often walks away believing, maybe I am the problem. But here's the most important distinction. A reaction to abuse is not the same thing as a pattern of controlling and manipulative abuse. That's not meaning harmful reactions aren't good. They're not good. I'm not saying to just react however you want to. That's something you have to work on. It does not mean yelling, breaking things, or emotional explosions are okay. But context matters. A nervous system under constant chronic stress eventually erupts. And many deep, empathetic, and empathic people become reactive because they've spent months or years suppressing pain, confusion, fear, betrayal, criticism, gaslighting, and emotional instability. And reactive abuse often happens in relationship where there's that narcissistic behavior, emotional manipulation, chronic invalidation, gaslighting, stonewall, infidelity cycles, addiction, intermittent reinforcement, control dynamics, and emotional uncompatibility, especially in relationships where one partner keeps moving the emotional goalpost. So here's an example. One day you're loved, the next day you're ignored. One day you're praised, the next day you're criticized. One day you want intimacy, the next day they will then reject you. Your emotional and nervous system starts to feel like survival mode, and eventually survival mode reacts. A lot of people in reactive abuse dynamics become obsessed with fixing themselves. I have people come and they start working on themselves. They are doing therapy. They're working with me. They read every self-help book. They constantly journal. They try to communicate better. They walk on eggshells. They monitor their tone. They suppress their emotions. They over-explain. They over-apologize. Meanwhile, the other person avoids accountability entirely. I've had 2 major clients deal with this recently and they got out. So you can get out. But that imbalance, I need you to know, is a huge clue. If someone never takes accountability and the other person, meaning you, is constantly trying to make up for it. Healthy relationships, they do have conflict. Mark and I have conflict, but we know when to take accountability. And there are emotional moments, but we are capable of reflection, repair, empathy, and accountability, like I said. And in toxic reactive abuse cycles, one person, just one, usually carries the emotional labor for both people. Okay, now let's talk about how reactive abuse slowly develops, because you might be listening and you might go, wait, is this me? So let me just tell you how it develops. It rarely starts with a scream. It's usually very, very fucking subtle. Tiny dismissals, criticism disguised as jokes, silent treatment, withholding affection, confusing communication, blame shifting even. And lastly, you start feeling emotionally unsafe. And that's confusing. You start to question your reality. You overthink everything. You replay conversations constantly. You feel anxious before you start seeing them. And then you feel relief when they are kind again. That's the trauma bonding that starts. The highs and lows create this chemical addictiveness inside of your body, inside of your nervous system, and your brain starts chasing relief than actual love. And eventually your body reaches like an overload. And when that reaction happens, many people experience reactive abuse saying, I became someone I hate. I hear that a lot. I don't like who I became with the person. I became someone I didn't like, didn't recognize, didn't know. It reminded me of this other person. And often what they became was emotionally flooded, dysregulated, sleep deprived, anxious, hypervigilant, and psychologically fucking exhausted. And a regulated nervous system behaves very differently than a traumatized one. Now, can reactive abuse happen both ways? Of course, 100%. Some relationships become mutually toxic and both partners are deeply reactive and harmful to each other. But usually there is still one innate dynamic. One person provokes, manipulated, destabilized, controls more consistently than the other. And it's important to be honest with yourself. 2, healing is not saying about, well, I was abused, so none of that is my problem or my behavior or I was reactive. Your healing has to say, I understand why I reacted like that. And I want to become healthier moving forward because this dynamic isn't healthy anymore. That's true fucking healing. There's no shame, there's no denial, and there's accountability without hating yourself. So how do you know if you are in a reactive abusive relationship? So here are the signs. You feel emotionally crazy in a relationship but calmer away from them. Number 2, you constantly defend yourself. Number 3, conversations somehow always become your fault. Always you get blamed. Number 4, you feel chronically misunderstood. Number 5, you explode after long periods of suppressing your feelings. Number 6, you start recording conversations because you question your memory. Number 7, you feel addicted to their validation, to be accepted by them. Number 8, you become hyper aware of their moods. Number 9, you fear abandonment, but also feel emotionally unsafe at the same time. And number 10, you apologize constantly and you feel ashamed of your reaction, but ignore your pain. So that is one of the biggest signs. You spend more time trying to prove your intentions than actually feeling loved. That's a lot. And I can tell you, if you're listening right now, I know about 3 or 4 people that could check every box. So how do you get out? How do you get out? Step 1, here we go. Stop trying to convince the other person to understand your pain. Now, this is huge and it is hard. Many people stay trapped because they believe if I can just explain it better, they'll finally get it. But emotionally manipulative people often understand your pain perfectly. They just don't prioritize it. They just kind of don't care. They care about what they need. And over-explaining keeps you trapped. So that's number 1. Number 2, document the reality privately. Journals I have people do, voice memos to yourself and send them to someone you trust. Write down patterns, not to obsess, but because toxic relationships create so much like mental and brain fog. Seeing the pattern on paper reconnects you to your reality. Here's step 3. Regulate your nervous system before making any major decisions. Trauma creates this urgency. You don't heal clearly inside of constantly emotional flooding. You can't heal. So focus on things you can control. Sleep, hydration, walking, eating more protein, sunshine, therapy, working with a coach, working with someone that specializes, breath work, safe friendships, silence, and having a routine. Your body needs safety before your mind can think clearly. Okay, here we go. Next one, step 4. This one's hard. Stop engaging in circular arguments. Toxic dynamics thrive on emotional exhaustion. Let me repeat that. Toxic dynamics thrive on emotional exhaustion. And not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every misunderstanding requires a 2-hour conversation. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can say is, I'm just not going to continue this conversation. I said what I needed to say. I heard you. Let's talk another time. Here we go. Step 5. Reconnect with your identity outside of the relationship. And this is what I have people do, like inner child work, going back to what brought them joy as a child. This is critical. Many people lose themselves completely. So start asking yourself, what do I like? What brings me peace? Who was I before this survival mode? What relationships feel safe in my life? And what part of myself have disappeared? So start there, because healing is often less about becoming someone new and more about returning to your old self. Step 6, this one's tough. Create an exit plan if the relationship is emotionally or physically unsafe. And this means, number 1, financial preparation. 2, therapy, support, coach. 3, support systems. 4, temporary distance. 5, boundaries, or complete no contact. And let me say this very clearly so you hear me. No contact is not punishment. Sometimes it's like a nervous system recovery, especially in trauma bonding relationships. Okay, those are the hard steps. Now let's talk about the healing after the reactive abuse. One of the hardest parts is forgiving yourself for who you became while you were in survival. Many people leave toxic relationships and only remember the worst moments, the screaming, panic attacks, the emotional, desperate texts, the spiraling out. But healing requires you to understand the whole freaking picture. And you are responsible for healing your behavior. You are not required to carry all the blame for that toxic dynamic. And one of the deepest parts of healing is learning emotional safety again. Not intensity, not chaos, not obsession, and not inconsistencies. Safety. Because many people confuse chemistry for anxiety, for chaos for compatibility. It doesn't happen. They think love should feel consuming, unstable, dramatic, passionate, I'm so over that word, intoxicating. But healthy love is really quiet. It's really consistent. It's steady. It's safe. It's honest. It's respectful. And sometimes people will say it's like boring. But at first, healthy love can feel boring. It can feel unfamiliar to someone that went through reactive abuse. And that is completely normal. So be gentle with yourself. Your nervous system may mistake peace for that boredom because it became conditioned to chaos. So healing involves retraining your body and your nervous system to just be. Not just in your mind, your body too. So a lot of body work helps. I did a lot of Reiki, acupuncture, trauma massages, things like that. And you have to listen today. Oh my God, this was my relationship. But I want you to know this. Your reaction does not ever define your worth. Your worst moments are not your whole identity. Healing is possible. I've done some bad things in my life, and I know that was me in survival mode. So you have to be gentle with yourself. You can become emotionally regulated again. You can trust yourself again. You can build your self-respect again. You can learn to healthy love again. But it starts with honesty, and you have to get really honest with yourself. Honest about the relationship, honest about the pain, honest about your reactions, honest about what your nervous system was surviving. I hope this episode helped. It was really hard to record because I know a lot of people suffering in this right now, especially, like I said, that Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Taylor. I think her name's Taylor Paul in Dakota. But I'm so glad the judge saw that it was reactive abuse. And now it's your turn to look deep and see your part and see how to get out of it. And I hope these steps I gave you helps because you do not have to live like this anymore. Thank you for listening to Secret Life Podcast. I'm Brianne Davis-Gant. Send me your thoughts and questions to secretlifepodcast@icloud.com. Until next time. Thanks again for listening to the show. Please subscribe, rate, share, or send me a note at secretlifepodcast.com. And if you like to check out my book, head over to secretlifenovel.com or Amazon to pick up a copy for yourself or someone you love. Thanks again. See you soon.